Hello, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where in today's video, I'm going to take you through my full analysis notes for the ACCA SBL examination for the March 2025 sitting, which involves historic places. This is part 1 in the series, so make sure you subscribe so you get access to all the videos. And if you'd like a copy of my notes, you can see above me, click the link in the description of this video and you can get a copy yourself there. I'm also delighted to say I'm affiliated and associated with Astranti. They have mock papers, pre-seen packs, loads of stuff that's going to help you to be getting to that 50 plus to pass your SBL exam. And for pure transparency as ever, if you were to click any of the links in the description of this video to purchase anything, I'd be entitled to a small commission which goes to supporting the YouTube channel. So as always, a massive thank you for all of your support. I really appreciate it. Leave me any comments if you have any questions. I will definitely get back to you. But let's get started now, having a look through the first part of the pre-seed notes. And if you've got a copy of this yourself, feel free to add your own notes on top of it. But starting on the contents page, if I was in your shoes, how would I go about this? Well, first of all, you can see there are 5 parts in the contents page that I've separated out. We've got the introduction, the sector information, historic places, the website extracts, and the financial and non-financial information. I'd break those up into whether you like to use paper notes or Excel tabs, whatever it may be. It's just so that if you come across anything else you want to add to it, it just goes into one of the folders. Keep it simple on there. The next things we have in my notes on here at the bottom, there are some key SBL corporate governance key areas that you just need to be aware of, that they love to throw them in, or you could apply them in your answer. Now, some of these are more likely than others. As I've said on previous videos, I don't have a crystal ball, but hey, we'd better note it down. Now, in terms of the actual historic places and their structure, we'll come onto it later on in the video in terms of the trustees and the board of executives. And they have agency theory in the SBL syllabus, which is all about the relationship between the shareholders and the agents on there. In other words, the managers who run the business day to day. Now, we don't have that kind of structure here because we have a charity. We don't have shareholders involved, but nevertheless, there is still the board of trustees who are not paid. We also have the executive directors who are paid. And then on top of that, we have the people who put money into the charities as well. These are the contributors, which we'll come on to. So again, it's not a likely area, but definitely worth noting down. The next one is for stakeholder theories, a lot more likely, because in the pre-seed notes, we are given a breakdown of the stakeholders and their different areas, and then it goes into more detail later on. So 100% make sure you've got stakeholder theory down, considering both internal and external stakeholders. Last but by no means least, CSR aspects in terms of the responsibility and benefits to society. A lot more likely than agency theory, as I've touched on before. They've mentioned stakeholders throughout, and CSR has also come up in the website extracts later on in the video series. So again, check that out. It could be an area linked to sustainability, green energy, and other CSR factors. The next thing on my notes you can see on the left-hand side are the professional skills marks. In your exam, there are 80 technical marks, 20 professional skills marks. Do not overlook these. Make sure you've got them down in your notes. Analysis, commercial acumen, communication, evaluation, skepticism. The key ones where students tend to get the 0 to 1 mark are commercial acumen and skepticism. With skepticism, you have to challenge the requirement and the exhibit which you've been given on the exam day. And commercial acumen is all about applying your answer back to the scenario. So in this case, referring to the charity sector and the examples that we've got on here in terms of historic places and any other charities thrown in the mix. The ACCA Code of Ethics is another area that going into your SBL exam, you've got to be on top of it. Please expect the Code of Ethics to come up somewhere, or for you to have it in your arsenal going into the exam to apply it to certain requirements. Throughout the pre-seed notes, we're given hints and flavors as to, this could lead to a confidentiality breach or a questioning of someone's integrity. And that's where key thing for your notes here is It's understanding the 5 different areas you can see: integrity, objectivity, professional behaviour, professional competence and due care, and confidentiality. But it's applying it to the scenario and applying it to the requirement what was set, and that is what is going to get you the marks on there. So make sure you've got those key factors down. Coming on to the first area now for the introduction. You see we've got historic places on there, and it is a charity, kind of set up like the National Trust. You'll see it as we go through the type of actual objects and sites that they look after. Throughout my notes, if you've downloaded a copy, ACCA is the country where they are operating, and the reason why I've highlighted them is super key because the markers love it when you refer to the company or the actual country directly. You might get the spelling a tiny bit off, but they will take that into account, and it's a case of it's so much better than you referring to them what their names are rather than it or they. And you've got my little references on there when they talk about preserving the historical sites in ACCA, castles, museums, objects. And an interesting note on page 6 is that they don't do religious historical sites. Again, just something to note down. You could throw it in your answers, but it's just one of those things. Why do you think they've mentioned it? Could throw it up in a exhibit on the exam day. Now, in terms of ACCA, the actual sector information, this is where we're going to pick up on our commercial acumen marks, applying this in the exam in our answers. And we're told that charities on here, again, it does what it says on the tin. You can read through these in your own time, but if you're following my notes, everything underlined are sort of the key terms that I'd be looking to apply in my answer. So if you're a charity in ACCA, like any other country, it's the welfare of society, public interest, sick and disabled people, helping them out, providing poverty relief, education, preserving history, a variety of different things that affect society, and campaigning to help it get better, or in other words on there. Then we come on to when the charities are raising funds. This is through a variety of different methods, and usually it's all about donations. You'll see it later on about the commercial activities and how they raise the funds. We've been given some nice diagrams on there. But the key thing, the last sentence in the overview of charitable sector paragraph, is the charitable sector includes large national charities and smaller charities which operate on a single site. For your notes, make sure you've got it down. Historic Places has hundreds of sites. It is a large charity, and we're coming onto it in a moment, that they also need to have an audit. So that just really sort of sets the scene, because we're going to get into more detailed areas now about the charity's legal position. And this is all still in ACCA, and they are often set up as companies limited by guarantee. So charities are often set up as companies limited by guarantee. And the key there, you can see in my notes, key definition: a company limited by guarantee does not have any shares or shareholders, linking back to agency theory we just touched on. It is underwritten by guarantors who guarantee to pay a specified amount to settle any debts only in the event of insolvency. Any surpluses that are not distributed to guarantors, so in other words, if you were invested in a company, they would maybe distribute dividends if they had the available funds. This is not the case in the charities, but what we're looking at here is invested in the charity to help promote its charitable activities. They can actually reinvest the funds in what the charity does on there. The other factor to note down in your notes is that we are not actually told who the guarantors actually are for historical places. So again, another major factor for you to consider that could come up on the exam day. We then get onto the likes of the charity's actual activities on there, and it's determined by their governing document on there, so a constitution. But many charities raise funds by the means of surplus funds from commercial activities. This is like, you've got to picture it in your head going into your SBL exam. They're running shops on there, and commercial activities are carried out through subsidiary companies which charities wholly own. And this is where, for your notes, it's really important you get down that for historical places on there, or historic places, it actually is a company limited by guarantee. I know it says charity, but for the terminology they're using in the preceding notes, that is how they are operating. You'll see it later on. There's a couple of other paragraphs to take you through it. Now, when it comes to the charity regulation, you've really got to get your head around this as to charities in ACCA are regulated by the Charity Supervisory Board, the CSB. Make sure you've got that down in your notes on there. And this is all about control and authority, a really important section here, that you've got all these subsidiary companies, as they put it. It's an extension of the charity. They are actually governed by ACCA's central government, and that is set up by the Charity Supervisory Board. They are also one of the stakeholders listed later on. And this is where the CSB aims on here to ensure that the general public who donate to charities on there actually see that their funds are used for proper charitable purposes. And so the CSB investigates allegations that the charities are not acting in accordance with their charitable objectives. And this is where the ethical side comes into it, as to making sure that charities are behaving, well, making sure they are not behaving unethically, to use the words in the preceding notes. They're not misusing funds or breaching any regulations. Those are three different areas that could be thrown in with an ethics question potentially. It then links on to the content of the charity's accounts is governed by a statement of recommended practice. In other words, if you see anything on the exam day that does not align to the CSB and the statement of recommended practice, this is where you could refer back to it on there, because Historic Places on here actually has and meets the requirements that charity accounts have to be audited if their annual income exceeds over $10 million on there. Historic Places actually goes well over on there. They need to have an audit. And the key bits for your notes on here, so they need to report on internal control and risk management systems, with the report being reviewed by the charity's external auditors. So key things for your notes: internal controls, risk management systems. I'll link it back to the CSB and the statement of recommended practice. Charities and commercial subsidiaries wholly owned by charities are not subject to taxation in ACCA. So that's really just to make sure that you don't make any mistake, that they're not going to have to pay any corporation tax on there. In terms of the heritage subsector now, and this is where many charities in ACCA exist for the purpose of preserving the country's actual heritage, and this links into the mission and values you'll see on page 6. But what does that actually mean? Well, it's all about the historical or cultural value, and is it worthy of preservation on there, because it takes a lot of time, effort and costs to actually preserve these actual sites and artifacts that they have in their possession. The charities in the heritage subsector conserve and maintain historical sites, that's buildings, museums, objects on there. And in terms of the heritage charities, they aim to bring the history to life for visitors. In other words, the general public on there, they want to see some appreciation, the participation in heritage. These are external stakeholder groups that you should refer back to when the public visit the sites, and work for charities if they're volunteers on an unpaid basis. So that is no cost to the charity. They're an advocate for the activities, and there is the same terminology on page 9 in the website extracts, what they look for. We then come on to, on the left-hand side, the other heritage charity factors. So it links into education on there, school children, different stakeholder groups like students, and a number of charities provide training in conservation and other activities. So again, really important on there for how the charity operates, who they want to bring onto the sites and encourage donations. With the last key thing being for this section that the two largest heritage charities in ACCA are Historic Places, HP, and they look after sites over 300 years old. Make sure you've got that down in your notes. That could come up on the exam day as a, has the student really understood the criteria and the background and the infrastructure of what historic places actually do, how they operate. Their objects and sites are over 300 years, whereas Living the Past, LTP, which mainly cares for sites that are less than 300 years old. Now, that's another key charity name to remember. It's the only time it's come up in the pre-seed materials. And I put down in my notes on here, what about a potential merger or a joint venture together? Because how do you know what happens if you've got a object that's, say, 290 years old or 295 years old? Do they pass them over to one another? Surely if they combined all their resources, there would be synergies and benefits that could occur from that. And again, it could be a nice link to sort of maybe a SWOT analysis question on there as well. Well, that takes us through our part 1 of the pre-seed materials. If you'd like a copy of these notes, as I said, be sure to click the link in the description of this video, guys. It's all down there for you. If you have any questions about the first part of the pre-seed notes, again, leave me a comment at the bottom. I'll take you on to the next slide now for part 2. So be sure to subscribe and I'll see you on the other side. So thank you very much.